Right. The climate agreement, it says, states that the total heat supply in the Netherlands must become carbon dioxide net zero by 2050. We need high temperature heat for the industrial sector and low temperature for the housing. This is a sort of a dual problem that we need to talk about. Let's discuss that with and give them a huge hand of applause. Marieke van Doorninck, Director of Kennisland. Take any seat you like, Marieke. Visser, Director of Amsterdamse Federatie, Woningcorporaties, Housing Corporations. So glad you're here. Roelof Vink, Director of Heating and Cooling of Eneco. Oh my God, that's a lot of work. Yeah. And last but not least, Andy van Dobbelsteen, Professor of Sustainable Architecture. Join us. So, do sit down. Before we start the discussion, I've got 4 questions, 3 major ones. One looks into the future. Your role in the energy and the heat transition at the moment right now.
My role is, I'm director at Kennisland, and what we do is that we work together with those who are mostly involved and affected by social changes to see how we can co-create solutions. So not talking about people, but with people, and see how you can co-create. And we do that, for example, on poverty energy, but also on the development and design of solar fields, but also in the heat transition, where we try to, before a plan is made, involve the community and see if we can co-create.
And I've been doing role plays with all kinds of actors and streets to get people going. If there's somebody really obstructing your plan, is there a new method to do it anyway?
Well, the thing is that you don't come in with a plan. You come in with a question and say, what does this neighborhood need? Instead of, I'm going to bring you something that you all like, and then people say, we don't like it. And then the whole discussion is about that instead of what the solutions could be. So actually we start with the neighborhood and not even talk about what are your things about heat transition, but more what does this neighborhood need for the future, and what could be a climate justice future for this neighborhood. And then you can all get all kinds of talks.
There's a huge risk inside that they say we want to keep the heat system as it is, and we want more nature.
Well, sometimes you can then say, okay, if we want more nature, also climate adaptation. If you have to change something about the neighborhood for the heat transition, you can combine the two things. So actually you can make it profitable to get the green in if you use the heat transition. So we're not promoting the heat transition, we're promoting a better neighborhood and using the transition as a way to get there, so also that people don't have anything to lobby against, but to lobby for their plans.
People are not stupid, so you're patient in telling your goal, but in the end you tell it after 20 minutes anyway, right?
No, actually we take much more time for that.
Good, but I think it's smart to do it. What is your role in the energy and the heat transition right now?
I'm director of a collaboration of 9 corporations of social housing companies. In total we have more than 190 dwellings in Amsterdam. So we have a big task. Wow.
Public transport.
Of insulate all the houses. We have more than 30,000 houses who are still E, G or F labels, energy labels, so that's bad.
Yeah.
That's a huge task. Another task is that we want to transfer all the people from natural gas to, let's say, district heating or other solutions. Yeah. And the third thing we do is we want to have solar panels on our roofs. Mm-hmm. And we do it together with our inhabitants.
And it's fun doing it, or is it a huge problem that has to be done?
No, I like to do it.
You see, when you talk about your face lightens up.
I really like to do it.
Good.
Before, I used to work for the municipality of Utrecht. So I'm already a long period doing this kind of stuff. It's difficult because not everybody wants to do it.
True.
But I also got children, and I want them to have a nice life as well. So.
Good point. What about grandchildren?
They're not yet there.
Future generations far from us. Yeah, Roelof Jan, your role at the moment?
Yeah, I'm a director at Eneco Heat and Cold. I'm primarily responsible for customer services. And our challenges, they're in the law. Affordability, sustainability, certainty, and it also must be an investable business.
Yeah, well, 2 things about that, and then we start with the questions. In my first panel discussion, I said, I hate the Dutch phrase, haalbaar en betaalbaar. Because we have a problem to solve. Get it done. So stuff like that. And then investment. Profit is an old economy concept.
No, it's not about profit. It's about you need a lot of capital for district heating.
Yeah.
And whether it's public capital or private capital, you need a lot of capital.
Right.
And you have to fix that. And most people, even public, want to see some kind of return on their capital.
Yeah,
invested.
take me with them. It's old-fashioned.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, you get a new world as a return.
Then we need to change the world, yeah.
True, good. Right, Andy?
Yeah, well, my function is double. As professor, I'm teaching students, of course, how to design zero-energy buildings so that they don't need heat supply or anything.
And how, that's a technical thing, and
Mostly,
a visionary thing. And how urgent is your way of teaching? Is it, this has to be the future, or, oh, well, you can do it this way or that way, or don't do it, or, because there has to be urgency in what we do.
No, it's compulsory now. Even in the bachelor, students at their final work they do at year 3, they have to make an energy neutral building actually as final assignment. But also in research I work on a larger scale, so helping cities to develop sustainable energy systems. And as sustainability coordinator of TU Delft, we are working on our own little city, which is the campus.
Yeah.
Also working towards a zero carbon system.
And you learn from that as well, and et cetera, et cetera.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you become one circular human being.
We all are, yeah. If you get buried under a tree.
After each question, room for you. So, or during, just wave your hand and let's make this interactive. Leading up to the first question, the goal is to insulate 2.5 million homes by 2030. The next step is switching from natural gas to sustainable energy by using, for example, hybrid heat pumps and sustainable heating networks. Doing this all at once is impossible, so it needs to be done step by step, not slow step by slow step. I hate that too. And however, sustainable changes are only happening gradually at the moment. Leading to the question, what are the current obstacles in the Netherlands to achieve this goal? What should be the focus to make this heat transition as smooth and fast as possible? Whoever wants to kick off, go ahead.
I can just say, technically there's not a problem.
Yeah.
So
Not even in scarce raw materials?
not with heat networks, I think. No.
Right now.
Skilled personnel, engineers, mechanics, that's shortage.
Personnel's a problem?
Practical problems too.
Yeah. Well, I'm ambassador to Catapult. Do you know it?
No.
It's an organization between the government, the schools, and the companies. We've got over 130,000 students participating, over 11,000 companies, and we can make schools for things that are needed. So get in touch, and we just make the schools that you need. Fixed.
Yeah.
See? Easy as that. Go ahead.
I think the biggest obstacle at the moment is the transition, new heat law transition between private and public roles, which has kind of, well, come to a standstill. A lot of discussions, but not a lot of new projects.
Yeah, what does it do to you? Because we see the urgency, we see the way towards a solution. Then you mentioned the funding of it all is problematic, and then the discussion stops. Must be.
To me personally, it's very frustrating,
right?
Because of the need is so big and the urgency is so big. And for Eneco, we have our own climate goals, which are even stricter. Be neutral at 2035, so it's 15 years before. And then you have a lot of discussions about private versus public, which is a fine discussion, and I'm not really that convinced that private should be the way to go. But just the discussion in itself, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah, Anjo?
Yeah, already when I worked at the municipality of Utrecht, I thought there will be 2 laws and they will be quickly there. So one is about the role of the private public, and it's still not done yet. So we're still waiting on a law that we know how we're going to organize it, a district heating system. And I'm already waiting 7 years for it. And we started 7 years ago in Amsterdam. And then we thought, okay, then the discussion will be there, but it's not still there.
But I got the impression that it moves away again, so that it's getting more difficult and more unaffordable to do central heating stuff.
And for us, that's the second thing. The bigger thing is it's not affordable for our tenants anymore. And we rent houses for people, let's say they earn 40,000 euros a year netto.
Yeah.
And they really cannot afford more to pay for energy.
Yeah.
So that's a really problem. And last year, all the energy companies increased their rents.
Fixed tariffs.
The fixed rents with 30%. So then a lot of people came to us. They were really angry at us, at the housing corporation. What do you do?
So there's no communication between all the layers in society, because in other perspectives, you might argue that for a large part of the Netherlands, life is becoming unaffordable.
Yeah.
So it's because of energy, it's because of this, because of that, inflation. We have a silly life. So this is your problem. We need a new future. How are you going to figure it out? What are you going to do?
What I want is that the national government gives some income supply for people with a lower income, because I think we need renewable energy, but renewable energy will be more expensive. And I think everyone over here will agree it will be, we need it, but it will be expensive. So if we think we're going to a new world, there are some people who cannot afford that, the energy bill anymore. So we have, with renting, we also have some, let's say, how do you call it?
In Dutch?
Yeah, the toeslag.
Heads on.
We get a rent compensation, let's say, from the national government.
The subsidies and the whole system.
Yeah, it's not a subsidy, but I also like something for the energy, because that people with a lower income, that the government says, okay, it's not your problem, we want to go to a new world, but we help you, and not only for 1 year, that's what we now are doing, we help you for the next 10 years or the next 50 years.
And have a plan as a country that you can figure out how to make it affordable again in the future. Maybe in the beginning it's expensive, so help each other, who can afford it, pay for it and pay a bit more, and the less give them a little toeslag, and then in the end it will be cheaper.
Yeah. But Marieke, I think there's one of your challenges, that there is not really a long-term strategy. So yes, there is an end goal, but a long-term strategy how to get there and how to make it not only affordable but also easy for people, but also something to actually look forward to. So say this is not a task, this is the first step into a whole new system of heating, but also of other things. So take it in the perspective of the transition that we're in, and make it not as something that you're losing, but something that you're gaining in your neighborhood or whatever. So that is also the story that we try to tell. It's not about giving up. It's about gaining other things in life.
And that's a different way of framing it.
That's a different way of framing. But the problem, if we have a government that all the time tells us this is something very bad that we're putting on you, and we try to make it bad, a bit less, or this is something that the former government wanted to push on you, but we don't do it, then the only message that you send to both the public, but also to the companies and to the housing companies who then have to sell it to their tenants, that gets it more and more difficult. So
it's thrown away money, and it doesn't do anything for the climate. This is what we hear all day long.
Yeah. Right. So there needs to be a long-term vision, and what you were saying is those different layers. And I think you also need some kind of incentive from the government that all these different layers work together. Not in, for their own goal, but for this transition.
But go from the script that the government, especially the new one, with Dick Schoof, silly development, is not going to do that story. So we have to make that story.
We have to do it.
How can you, and then I'm going back to the number of houses, how can we get the story back to frame it the way we want it? Seems like a huge problem.
Well, I do think that all climate activism really helps with young people standing up. They're making a story. But one of the things that why we are promoting this kind of co-creation is you also can get that story from neighborhoods. If you're not talking about one technical solution, but if you're talking about what does a climate a justice or climate neutral neighborhood means for you, then
more happiness, more
then people can start imagining what it would be. So I do think that this kind of narrative that we need is not written by the government, but it's kind of collected from all these different people who do want that change.
Perfect story. And do you get it organized? Can I see these stories now somewhere?
Well, there's people collecting the stories, but I think that this is where we now we have a government, and we know we cannot expect anything from the government.
Well, you can expect anything. Frustration, denial, fear.
If it's good for our health not to expect too much of the government and try to do it ourselves, I do think it's civil society together with companies and organizations who are struggling it on a day-to-day basis because they see it as their task, and see how we can unite and make that story.
And we should find a way to get it into society again, because they don't believe anything you tell them anymore. So we have to be smarter than what's happening right now.
Then maybe it shouldn't be us telling, but maybe your neighbor or somebody they trust. So I do think that social work should be part of this.
Yeah. True.
But also finances, I think Marieke is right. So we should emphasize more the benefits of this transition, because it offers things that would otherwise go lost. Health, but also, for instance, ice skating, and there's lots of options.
Very good.
Cooler cities in summertime. Yeah. But I think we should also start to think differently financially, because it's always a story like sustainable energy is more expensive. It's nonsense. If you look at the total cost of ownership of a full lifespan, and if you include the carbon price, which is actually the cost we will run into if we do not do anything, then actually sustainable energy is cheaper.
But again,
we have a difficult problem because the society costs are lower, but for our tenants it's higher. So then we must or divide something different, or we must more collaborate, I don't know what. But that's the big problem, that we can't go to our tenants and say, sorry, but this for the society, it's cheaper, but not for your energy bill. I'm so sorry.
So this is what we try to emphasize all day. We need a system change here as well. So who's going, apart from the framing of the story and getting it back into society, Andy, who's going to take care of the system change in general, so that we can make it cheaper, fairer, and actually get it done? Because and you can think about your answer. First of all, you mentioned 30,000 homes. Here it says 2.5 million homes in the Netherlands. By 2030, well, we all know that's not going to happen. No. So, but there's people shortage everywhere. Did somebody do the math?
We made agreements with the national government and with the local government. Before 2028, there can't be any more energy labels of E, F, and G. And I just told her that we worked together in Amsterdam before, that we're already twice working as hard as last year. So every year we're making 11,000 houses, we insulate, we make solar panels, we do electric cooking.
And do you do exactly what you want to do, or do you do the minimum to get it from E to D? And then God, I'll push the problem a bit further on. And then
to be honest, we have 6 big housing corporations. Some only do the thing to get to D.
You see?
But most of them think, okay, we must really be ready for 2050.
Otherwise, you have to start all over again.
Good. Yeah, that's true.
Andy,
but we also think of new things. Now it's bio-based insulation.
Sure.
We use a lot of, and it was 3-4 years ago. We didn't even thought about it. So if we go too quickly, we miss some innovations. I think.
What about Dutch bamboo? There's a whole new there's a new revolution coming. There's a professor in it now, and a book and a story. You'll hear more of it. Andy, you have an answer?
I have an answer. What?
Go ahead.
No, I think some of the things should be systematic changes, because otherwise people will keep thinking in the old-fashioned way. And we have this discussion even on our campus, where we have set clear goals and clear vision of where we want to go. But then you end up in what we call the middle management, people that are used to working the same way for decades, and they find it really difficult to do different things. So the system needs to change bottom up and top down, and be supported also from above in new management systems.
Yeah. So in the end, total plan, total honesty, total openness. This we can do, this we might do, this we can never do, and then chip in everyone.
True. Yeah.
It's really working. Questions? Go ahead. No questions? Good.
There's one in the back.
Yeah. Is there a microphone somewhere? Yeah. Pretty close to you.
Hi. I have a question, not necessarily somewhat related to the topic. So, on the one hand, there's a massive expedience required for the energy transition. We have 24 years, give or take. On the other, there is a large issue of also in the line of the cost, dwindling support in public. So one aspect would recommend caution, the other would recommend speed. For example, I think in Amsterdam there was a bit of a kerfuffle with a heating grid that didn't go quite as planned. Could you elaborate a little bit on how to balance those topics as an engineer? When one half wants you to rush as quickly as you can, and the other would say, be very, very careful.
Yeah, it's a dilemma. I'm curious what you're going to answer, because in the first panel discussion, this was the same question.
Okay.
You want to speed things up, but then you miss out on new innovations, etc. So,
But I think the bigger thing is we need support from the tenants and from the local inhabitants. And if we go too quickly, they say no. And in the Netherlands, if we start with a new project, we must have 70% must agree with our plan. So we can't go we can't go that quickly and turn up that speed.
But in my perspective, I'm not wearing it for nothing. The SDGs 2016, it took a lot of negotiations and slow steps to get there. Finally, 194 countries signed the SDGs, and then we had the climate agreement in Paris, and then we really wanted to change the world. Now it's 8 years later, and we still make tiny little steps, because otherwise, how slow can you go? Crying out loud.
I think one is for the technical evolutions that are happening, that you say you want to have the latest things. I think that if you make good rules about, you don't prescribe as a government what kind of materials to use, you just you put a goal on the end result and not on the materials. Quite often the rules are made in the materials that they have to use, where actually you have to talk, the result have to be at least this, and then maybe a company who's doing it can extra points if they get a better result. So then you actually can be adaptive.
Be smarter in the way you organize it and in the incentives and everything.
I think so. And for me, and I know it's hard, it's not really easy, but I do think if you make tenants not the receiver of a service, but the owner of a solution, then they might be much more inclined to think about it and to work with it. Not everybody, but you get a different kind of dynamic in a neighborhood if that happens, so that not the only one who doesn't like it will try to get everybody to dismiss the
And they
solution.
always exist, don't they?
Of course.
The one that doesn't like it.
Yeah.
God, it's always
But
number
it
12.
helps when one of the tenants starts to go to their neighbors and tell that's a good idea, that works much more better than if the government goes or if.
And are you as ruthless already that you pay somebody in the street to be the positive neighbor? Why not?
There are always, civil society was mentioned, there are always a couple of people, guys, older men, they are very enthusiastic and they're starting their own energy company or heat company. Mostly some
men,
way, I don't
really?
know.
What's wrong with
technical, interesting?
And I like the civil society, but for me personally, I believe more. We have to sit this government out for 4 days, 4 weeks, 4 months, 4 years. We really need a plan and planning, old-fashioned spatial planning. And
I think so too,
This will be heat, this will be heat pumps, this will be all electric. That's the only way to get it done. It's the way we did it in the 70s, the rollout of gas. That's the way in Denmark, where most houses are connected to district heating, were just planned, forced. Sorry, but this is the best solution for everybody. This is what we're going to do.
Good. And more questions, or we move to the next one left? Yeah. Microphone coming at you. Wait.
When comparing to other countries, is the Netherlands a front runner with the heat transition? And are there things we can learn from other countries?
Denmark obviously, but are we somewhere up there, or are we beneath Malta? We always are under Malta.
No, it's very difficult because we are trying to get rid of gas, but for most countries, gas is
a step forward.
Step forward. So, are we a front runner? Yeah.
Let's rephrase European countries.
Yeah, even then.
Well, nuclear power in France.
Well, in renewable energy, in the percentage of renewable energy, we're very low on the table.
But 16, 80%.
I think in the heat transition and also in energy efficient housing, we're quite good in Europe. But I think Scandinavian countries are further in that transition. regardless of the original source they use. The heat grids there are quite common.
So finally we get it going and maybe we can catch up.
Yeah, you know, it's a military plan we need. You just imagine that what you are telling from the housing associations, that this would happen in a war situation. Yeah, we need 70% of the people need to vote in front of defending our country. This is defending us against climate change and the ridiculous prices that energy will have in the future.
That German journalist, she wrote a book.
Yeah.
I forgot her name.
War economics.
Yeah, and she said we have to get back to the level of consuming of 1978, and then we need an English war economy, and we can fix that in 5 months. So shut up and do it.
Yeah.
And then everybody, I gave the book for free. I bought a few copies, and they just freeze like, oh my God, no! And I was perfectly happy in 1978. So.
Well,
But at the moment, we got a law, and the government now can say we oblige you to transfer to the district heating. So it just that's one thing the government.
One positive thing.
Good thing the government did, but now the governments have to apply to it. So they have to use this kind of law. So I'm really curious about what will happen, because that's the first step. That the government will say that it's much more easy for us as well, because now we go together with the tenants. Every door we ring, and then we can say, sorry, but everybody has to transfer in the Netherlands, and also you.
But because there's a lot of public money in your company, do you speak out enough? Do universities speak up enough? Do Kennisland people demand a future? Eneco people? What's happening?
Some people said to me that we had a discussion with the district heating in Amsterdam, and it went to all the public newspapers. So they said you're disturbing the way of getting.
Very good. Let's
I said that, and 1 week later we stopped.
Yeah, you did the same.
That,
so it's a bit difficult if you want to get attention from the newspapers and from the public. They only come when you get a bit of discussion, but that's also good, because now the minister said, okay, we're going to help you. So
you see?
Yeah,
it
this is
helps.
the first time, he comes.
Still important?
Yeah, I have a different question. It was more about, we all know that there are rare metals used in most of those sustainable solar panels and so on. Yeah, how is this going to change when everyone starts using and there need for a lot of solar panels? I mean, would that be possible, for instance, even if we need those rare metals and they're so scarce?
Addressing the use of rare earth metals and other critical raw materials. It's a difficult story, and indeed, if we don't save any energy, if we don't install systems that are smartly interacting between buildings, so exchanging heat and cold, storing it over seasonally, then you need a lot of equipment that has to be made from these metals. And so at the moment we don't have enough batteries, for instance, or enough materials to give everyone across the world solar panels.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Not even 1/10.
No. So we tend to forget always the first two steps, which is to reduce and reuse.
Yeah.
And
Refuse.
and that's why
refuse.
The first.
Very good.
Refuse.
Oh, I want to give you some energy. Oh no, I refuse. Very good.
Yeah, there's a lot of energy you don't
sort of a
need,
Me
actually.
Too reaction
That's
to
true,
energy.
Yeah. I shared it on the reduce in the approach, but that's true. And I don't necessarily support that everywhere there should be heat grids, because sometimes it's better to go to a heat pump system with soil as the source or open water. And sometimes it's better to go to green gas solutions if you are in a rural countryside, for instance, and there's a lot of gas being produced.
Not too much, but
But anyway.
A bit. And we can, when we go from cotton to linen to Dutch soy, then we can sort of, things are changing.
Green gas is even a problem in Denmark, where they have relatively a lot of land and cows versus people.
You see,
so that's a challenge.
Yeah.
No, it's very limited. Only 10% of
Let's
housing
go to
hydrogen.
Let's go to question number 2. It's about support and affordability. And to lead up to the question, development of heat production through sustainable sources is being encouraged and must be sufficiently available and affordable by 2050. The heat transition can be expensive, can lead to discomfort due to infrastructural development, and heat security can be decreased. How can we make sure that there is enough societal support for the heat transition in terms of the infrastructural changes that need to be made? How can we guarantee affordability for the financially burdened part of the population? Leading up to the question, how do you create support for new ways of heating among residents, and how can we guarantee its affordability? Well, we discussed it a little bit already, but maybe to summarize it a little bit, Joanne?
Yeah, what we do nowadays is that we guarantee for 10 years the energy bill. And that's quite a risk, we found out the last months. Yeah. But we need something to say to our tenants, because they have a low income, that they should know that if they transfer to another system, that they know, oh, it doesn't make noise, it's safe, it doesn't make a lot of space in your house.
Just for me, sometimes it does make noise, right?
Not heating pumps, they do, but the district heating,
no,
we don't get that much complaints about it.
Good.
And I'm talking about district heating at the moment. So nowadays we guarantee for 10 years most of the time the energy bill, and we found out that it's quite risky, and that's the reason we went to the national government to say, come on, we do what we can, but we're our organizations, we don't get subsidized from the national governments. We only get the rents from the tenants. Yeah. So we can't make it. And if we make new installations or other things, we don't ask more rent. No. So where do we get the money from? So at the moment we're talking with Minister Jetta, and we really want him to make a step forwards to us.
Yeah, but will he be too late? Because he's in
a few weeks he needs to do that.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah. He has a few weeks to do that.
Yeah, maybe 4, but not too much time. So and if not, because it was the prior question as well, we have to solve it ourselves. Is there a way out without the government? Might be even better.
It might be better, but I think we're both, the energy companies and the housing associations, then think, okay, if nobody wants to help us, we take a short resting time.
Yeah. You do?
Well, our plan is to be more selective. So 5 years ago, when I started in this business, the idea was that 35-40% of all housing would be connected to district heating in the long run. I think with the usage of heat has been much lower the last few years, and I think that's a structural thing, which is good by all means, but it's not that good for a district heating business case. They need a lot of connections and a lot of usage. So our projections are down from that 35-40% to 20-25%. We need to be more selective. District heating is great, but not for everywhere.
Not everywhere. No.
So you have to be selective for that.
But
I think it would be a good system if we have minimum wages. Once you start working, you have to earn at least a certain amount of money.
True.
I think there should be also a minimum support for energy of people. I think it's a normal commodity that people can live in a normal house, and the poorest people will be supported then completely. The people who like to live in a villa have to pay more, but that's fine. Now everybody would say, but that will cost a lot of money for the government. But if you see how much money now goes into subsidizing the fossil industry, 40 million a day. If you would use that money to do the energy transition, then everybody could be in an energy neutral house.
All kinds of ridiculous subsidies. And let's make this discussion a little bit larger for this moment. I always plead for the last 2-3 years, we need to go to a bio-based, circular, post-grow society. And you can do it with a progressive carbon dioxide emission tax. So up to the average income, it's sort of okay, and then it goes up rapidly. And for the filthily rich people, there's a limit. And after that, you can't do it anymore. It's not allowed. My favorite sentence, oh, too bad, it's not allowed anymore. And would that help? So you have a minimum income, you have a minimum right on living somewhere. So when you live I live with 2 people in a huge home, which is rather ridiculous, but in the end, you should sort that out as well. You got one energy bill and you can use it no matter how. So poorer people can actually pay for their bills, because it's ridiculous the way we do it.
I think that's absolutely right. And the problem, of course, is that one very good instrument is making transitions, is putting a price to it. The problem there is that rich people can afford it and poor people can't. So there you need this kind of progressive measures. But also a report from a few weeks ago said that higher educated or more theoretical educated people earning more money think a lot more about climate but live much less sustainable, whereas poor people having more practical education don't think a lot about climate but live very sustainable. So
you say it too mildly. I read the same article. The rich people just don't give a fuck.
No, actually,
they don't.
I think the problem there is that when we're talking about sustainability, we start thinking about electric cars, we think about solar panels, where actually the real transition is not about a one-to-one transition. I used to drive in a car on gas, and now I drive on a car on electric. Actually, the real transition is I used to drive a car, I take the public transport right now. And you need
I share a car,
or I share a car. So you really have
change.
to look at of systems change.
Yeah.
And there is where richer people have to make the more sacrifices and the more... Well, maybe not sacrifice, because we just said it was a wonderful world that we're trying to achieve. So they have to change much more in their behavior, where actually poor people can much more benefit from those changes.
So let's try again, and I start with Andy. How in everything you do with everybody here, in the knowledge we have, in the perspective that just popped up, are we going to make these system changes? How can you contribute to that?
Well, I try to make students think differently and start with asking the question, is it really needed? So that's the refuse question.
Very good question.
And then how to do it with local circumstances better, using the local resources, local climatic conditions. And
short chains, everything.
Yeah. And then first saving energy before you start thinking about producing.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the wrong way that the government is doing right now. They're looking at how can we generate enough gas, how can we generate enough electricity. No, start saving first, because that will reduce a lot. And yesterday I was in Germany, in Aachen, a conference also about energy transition. And everybody knows the Energiewende in Germany. They were the first country that had a large program there. But they also have the Verkehrswende at the moment.
Genau.
Because they want to step away from switching fossil fuel cars to electric cars. Now they want to get rid of cars, because that creates enormous qualities in cities.
And then they have German brands, and then you pick out a car, and then they say, oh, it's made in China, and it's brought over here. Which is totally ridiculous. This is the world we live in.
Yeah, but that's why maybe the Germans now are supporting getting rid of cars instead of switching to Chinese electric cars.
I think it's a good thing.
Maybe they start the how do you say, the speed rate is all, you can drive whatever you want in Deutschland.
In Deutschland
I think
alles,
reduce the speed. There are sometimes they do good things, but then that's something of a habit that you have.
Well, at least today a survey came out that 130 kilometers drive in the Netherlands is practically impossible everywhere. So that's good. It's a very good measure of the new government.
It's going to be allowed, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be allowed, but we can't do it. So, question.
Well, I heard a lot of solutions in terms of government and everything, but I think we're also over here, like maybe 99% we're all technical students. And in the beginning, I'm not sure, but I think I heard Andy say that technology is there. But if you look at maybe the lifespan of 5 years now, in 5 years, where are we and what are the new things that's important for you as a professor, but also for Eneco and for the tenants? What do you see in the changes, but purely looking at technology?
You see how stubborn it is? I'm trying to explain all day, innovations will not save us, but it's a good question.
It's not about innovations, but even using old technology. District heating networks are a pretty old system.
Pretty old.
Pretty old principle. We can gain a lot by steering the heat demand much better. We are rolling out smart metering. Really, the old-fashioned way of doing district heating was just pump it up to 110 degrees, make sure everybody gets 9 degrees at his home, and then we're done. That's right, we don't have any complaints then, but everybody is convinced that we can lower this temperature to 70, 65, and maybe even lower. We can reduce the cooling down, so the system could be much more efficient if we just put more data points in the system and manage it better. That's what we are doing, but it's a lot of work.
And make it a bit more specific for the technical people. What kind of things. I'm working on the best air conditioning system in the world, so that's good for me. Maybe we can switch them into.
Yeah.
But what kind of machinery, apps, things are going to be used the coming 5 years?
Well, a lot of data, how do you call it? The data copy of the system, so you can manage it. Artificial intelligence for learning, digital twins, that's the word. Artificial intelligence for better steering, better understanding, and then better steering.
I don't know whatever is already invented or not, but I think what's really needed is to see how we can really connect all the different systems, or in neighborhood systems, so where you can make sure that you can have energy collective between neighbors, where actually they can exchange energy. What the neighbor is not using this day, you can use another day. So really have this smart grids. And I think all the things that you were saying, you also need that for energy.
On a smaller scale.
On a smaller scale, but really that also makes it much more tangible for tenants, which makes it more attractive for tenants. So there you can have the technology helping in the more emotional support for the transition.
It's on all levels actually. So technical level and social level, we all need technology
to
make it.
Combination, because on a low level, I mean on a street or a few neighbors, exchanging energy is the most efficient way. I mean, a large system is always inefficient.
It's always good. You know the movie about a farmer from Australia, who goes into the world to find solutions for his 4-year-old daughter. When she grows up, he wants to give her a good world. And he starts in Bangladesh, in the favelas, how do you call them, the slums. And there's a lot of tiny, scrappy houses, and there's 2 with 1 solar panel. And they're all interconnected, and you can actually go there and charge your phone. And it's they solved it, and it's so simple, and it makes you so happy that you can, with each other, you can change. So that's nice.
I fully agree with Marieke. The future lies in larger scale systems, but not necessarily centralized systems like we have in the Netherlands right now. It's in neighborhoods, it's in districts, because what people tend to forget is that every function that needs cooling is actually producing waste heat all the time. So that's happening. Energy. If you look at supermarkets, if you look at department stores that need cooling, or
data centers, terrible.
Enormous amounts of waste heat that is now released into the air or water, disturbing the system and creating hot cities in summertime. So I do believe indeed in systems that can exchange that waste heat with interseasonal storage. It's systems we already have, it's techniques we have. I think heat pump systems can still be improved. It's also an old technique because everyone has been
having
to get
rid of the gases inside the pumps. Can you fix that?
I'm not a heat pump fixer, but there's mechanical engineering students who can.
Get the gases out of the heat pumps, please. Because it's very bad gases.
And the noise as well.
The noise, good.
The noise.
Any other questions? Otherwise, we go on to the next one, and it's about behavioral changes, which in the end is maybe the system change we need. Significant behavioral changes usually take a long time to become ingrained in society. Due to energy crisis and the decentralization of energy production, energy security has decreased and prices have gone up. This has led to behavioral changes like turning down our heating, installing solar panels, and paying attention to energy labels when buying a house. Leading up to the question, therefore we have to ask ourselves the question, can we as a society afford to maintain our old behaviors? Do Dutch residents need to change their energy perception and habits? And adding, from my point of view, do we really need terrasverwarmers?
Well, just start with a tax on waste heat production and emission. And I think these terrace heaters, they are also producing waste heat because only a little bit of it is received as heat.
We're trying to educate people, we're trying to change, and then you can't say it anymore. Huge people sit outside under a terrace heater eating fat stuff. And then my whole weekend is ruined. This is very personal. So
we can ask students, don't make this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That would be, when I was a student and I was sitting on the terrace, I always had a big jacket on.
Me too.
And then I think, why the fuck do we make those projects we don't need? So we make a lot of projects. The same with the air conditioning. Nowadays, everybody has an air conditioning. Now, it's a bit warmer in the Netherlands, but it's not 35 degrees or something like that. So we make a lot
I have
of
news
projects.
for you. The coming years it will be, so.
Yeah, it will be, but
Yeah.
we make a lot of projects we don't need. We put everywhere, we put lights in it, in our shoes, everywhere. So we found out the LED system, and then think, oh, that's a cheap one. So we
Oh, it's
so
fairly
maybe
energy
you can
efficient.
help us to make projects, or not to innovate projects anymore we don't need.
Yeah, good. Let's start the whole.
Well, the behavior. I want to
Yeah, go
address
ahead.
the never waste a good energy crisis. Prices have gone through the roof. Usage of energy has gone to the cellar. We see 20, 25, and sometimes even 30% less usage of gas and district heating. And maybe some people have really needed blankets on their sofas, but it's also a lot of behavior, being smarter, not heating up your house in the morning just for showering and then go to work.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Really stuff like that. It's and
Yeah.
it needs a shock. I mean, when it goes slowly, like petrol gas prices went up slowly, nobody reacts. When you have a big steep increase, people wake up.
Yeah.
And then,
And let's start with Marieke. Make top 2 or 3 behavioral things that we really need to master quickly.
Well, if you're really looking at CO2 emissions, I think it's eating meat, flying, and what is the third?
Buying stuff.
Yeah, buying stuff.
Buying stuff in general and
but-
buying
yeah,
clothing in particular.
clothes.
But
Cars and
I do agree with Anna Jo that every day there's new inventions of stuff that we don't need. So we really have to get rid of all these stupid inventions, and they're only invented for us to consume more. So it's only the step to even more. So there we have, because everything that we're not used to yet is not a sacrifice that we have to give up. But every day something new is invented that a day after that we think we need. I'm using a van because of my age, but now most of people have vans with an electric thing in it. It's not like a big thing doing this, My hand is capable of making this movement.
Yeah.
So I think there's so many things that we are so used to getting more and more comfort, where actually the comfort is at the expense of the earth, and also at the expense most of the times of our own body weight and our own health.
Yeah.
So don't invent something that we don't need, and start reducing the stuff that you buy.
Yeah.
But yes, I do think that flying and eating meat are also 2 big transitions that we need to go
And I
through.
found out that if we actually do that, we can get 3 months of free time in this system, because we only keep the system going in those 3 months.
Oh, yeah.
They don't bring us anything, no wealth, no nothing, only because the way we organize stuff, we have to run 3 months like a hamster.
We have
to
a very strange economical system,
Yeah.
because the theory of economics is that you treat your resources economically, so you don't want to use too much.
Yeah.
And our economical system is about using much more and more and more, because we need to produce, because we need to buy, because we need to. So we are in a completely wrong circle.
and
Just for
because
the statistics,
don't have a price, so
What?
CO2.
Yeah, and because we're
externalizing the real costs of many things, and that's the expense of nature and the expense of a lot of people, other places in the world who are producing our stupid stuff for very little money and polluting the world and themselves. So we need to stop consuming the way we're doing.
And bring it to the action. What a fantastic story that is.
But also, they bring it to the action, but also to Benetton.
I know.
It's not only the cheap
and
stuff.
to give you the scale of things, the last 6 years, worldwide, we use more raw materials than in the whole 20th century. So
I sometimes make this little...
This is ridiculous, and this is what we're doing.
Little game with friends, and they say, right now there's this discussion about mining the deep sea for the materials that that we are using, and I say, what is it worth to destroy the deep sea? What kind of articles do you have that it's worth to destroy the deep sea? Is it your electric toothbrush or whatever? And for me, it's a good exercise in thinking, what do you actually need and what is actually not necessary?
Yeah, and we don't even know what we're going to destroy.
No.
Anio.
Yeah, maybe
we need more tax on some things. So we can fly, but kerosene, we don't even put tax on it. So
But then it's a rich man's hobby again.
yeah.
So
there, I think by putting more environmental tax also on things which are economic interesting, but are environmental or from the social part of view not.
yeah.
We
like
should.
flying.
Sorry.
Like flying.
Yeah, like flying. Yeah.
Roelof? Things to
Well,
adjust.
more of a higher level. I really love system innovations. I really love innovations, but I also very much like incremental enhancements. So gaining 2% by a smarter system, more efficient, reduce a bit of weight, whatever.
The kaasschaaf method.
It gets you a long way. I mean, innovations are great, and when they truly happen, you can make a big jump. But don't forget the small steps ahead.
Yeah, but
every
it
day
has
again.
nothing to do with behavior. So is
Well,
there some, but
their
just,
behavior.
just make it
No,
personal. What
it's
in your
about,
own
It's
life?
about the students in the room here.
Yeah.
I think, as a student and maybe as a person, everybody dreams about making a big impact. So making a huge innovation.
True.
The holy grail of whatever.
Yeah.
And I get it, and it's fine, and be ambitious, but don't forget small steps.
That's a
really
good point.
come a long way.
I still dream of the holy grail of air frying.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
it's just me. I hate air
Yeah,
fryers,
that's
don't
just
you?
you.
But in your own personal life, what would you get rid of if you had the chance?
Yeah, well, I think the same thing. Clothes. I don't fly that much, but yeah, true. Same things.
So relaxed if you don't fly. It's very relaxing.
But then
I go
we have to
everywhere with
improve
my
the
electric
train
car,
system.
so,
We have
yeah.
to improve the train system.
yeah.
True.
Yeah.
I said to myself, okay, I'm not going to fly anymore in Europe, and I don't fly most of the time.
Yeah.
But then I went to Barcelona last year. I went to Birmingham this year. It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's
It's,
terrible to book the ticket. It's
Yeah.
terrible. Yeah, there are technical students, but we
But you
also
have
need.
wonderful conversations on your way.
That's true, but we need
lot
also
of them,
that we have a better advantage in the system where we want the behavior to.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
it's so stupid that if you want a flying ticket, it's just 1, 2, 3 clicks and you're done. And then you want a ticket to Barcelona, and then I have to go to this company, to the next company.
I think it's settled in 1 or 2 years because everybody is complaining about it now. So they pick it up.
But
and
this also
But they also
requires
have to
system
invest
change.
in it.
Sorry?
The governments also have to invest in it.
they
It's
probably
also
will,
really
because-
about how
Yeah.
they connect together. So I do believe in personal change in behavior, but you need your system change in order to make it possible, because you
Has to
cannot
be-
leave it up to
Yeah.
the individual to make those changes. So you need support from the system change.
Andy, something to add, or can we ask the...
No, two things.
yeah,
One, technical students know measuring is knowing. So if you start to measure your own life, not just the energy bill, but look at everything you do, try to calculate it in carbon emissions and
I always
energy
say,
use.
say that again, measuring is knowing.
Yeah,
And at
meten
home we
is
always
weten.
say, knowing is more than measuring.
That's true, but
But it's
by
lovely.
measuring you know more.
Yeah.
No, but I think I once was a friend of mine lives in Oost-Knollendam, and there is also a West-Knollendam, and they had a competition between the two villages in energy consumption
Wow.
over a winter. So I think East Knollendam won, but that was so funny because they learned a lot of how far you can go with saving energy. That's one thing. Second thing, as technical
but it's
students,
a good thing.
Yeah.
To make a fun out of trying
yeah,
stuff.
maybe try it with the students' homes.
good.
Competition.
Competitions.
I
Good
think they're
idea.
already there. I know our student company,
Yeah.
Duo, already does that kind of competitions.
That's
Okay,
lovely.
I never saw
Yeah,
that.
and to
Okay,
try
that's
to
good.
get your meter to stop running, your electricity meter to
Oh,
stop
yeah, yeah,
running.
yeah. We need
Try
an
to
old-fashioned
find
one that can turn back.
everyone, yeah, apps. Try to
In
try
my
to
tiny
come
home in
to
Amsterdam, I
complete
use so
still
little water they don't believe me. And then I send them a picture of the water meter, can't be true. And then they charge me as a big company.
Yeah.
And I have to actually get a court order to get it. People are silly. Go on, your second
And the
one.
second one for the students here, start developing human-powered equipment again. So we're so used to using electricity for everything. I'm here on bike from Delft, which is just half an hour. Of course, there's many electric bikes that pass you on the way, but okay, they go a little bit faster, but they use
Yeah, but
electricity.
you have better legs and no thrombosis.
That's true.
So it's ridiculous.
No, but there's so many things like coffee grinders that you can simply do by your own manual things. And so I would really love that students would come up with more human-powered devices
Like
that can replace
the
electricity.
thing to dry your
power.
washing.
Yeah.
It turns around a little bit.
Yeah.
It might be slightly
Yeah.
electric, but it's totally different than a wash dryer. So-
Exactly. Have you ordered one?
No. But I know
Mine
the
is
people.
coming this week.
Yeah, I get one for free.
Oh.
I think. Yeah, great. So questions from the audience, in the back and in front.
So it's a little bit more of a two-part question. The first part is that I completely agree that overconsumption is one of the biggest problems of today, and that it's essential to cut down consumption. But, and you said that I think horrible name, sorry, but you said that we have to stop consuming what we don't need. But where do you draw the line of what you need and don't need, and how do you differentiate that for different people? Mm-hmm. And also for the second part is many times this cycle of production drives innovation, and if we were to stop that, do you see any problems of the limits to innovations and the problems that could have in society?
Right. Take it up.
I think it's personal, so I think one of the exercises is start thinking yourself what you need or don't need, but maybe we should follow the book that said we need kind of have the welfare situation of 78. That was when the world was kind of living in some kind of more balanced with nature. So it's not like going back to the Dark Ages. On what you need, but I think so. And
to
I
them
also
it will feel like that.
Sorry?
To them it will feel like that.
Yeah.
78.
No, because you can take all the knowledge to the present world, but you'd make different choices. So you don't have to be the intelligent level of 78, but
Yeah.
the balance level. So,
And I also believe, again, there should be personal choices in where you what you do want to consume and what you don't consume. You could make some ideas that I really like to travel, but I don't eat meat, or you can also make some choices in there. And I think for your idea of innovation, yes, innovation is very productivity driven, but I think also most of the innovations were made in the war industry. I don't like that, but so it's not only that innovations were made by the markets in order to make more products.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that also needs some kind of, so we need the system change, but we also need this kind of social change in how you want to live, and that maybe you want to do your big inventions for the better of the world and not for the better of the wallet of your boss.
Hear, hear. Very good answer. Thank you. One other question, two more questions.
Yes, so to me personally, the big rise in energy cost in 2022 because of the war was a big realization moment, looking at my energy bills, and in my student house we made a lot of adaptations on our energy use then. And even though I knew it was unequal in we have less money as a student, and I know that, but I never really understand why everything behavioral is taken in such small steps, while I notice in my own behavior that big interventions have the biggest impact.
Mm-hmm. Like the mouth masks during COVID, within 2 weeks everybody wore them. Yeah, good point. Yeah. Shouldn't we make bigger appeals on the public? More laws, more...
I think we should support the poor people, mostly, because
Always.
for them it's really difficult to make the transition. They don't have the money to invest in renovations or buying better stuff. Uh-huh. So there should be a minimum level there. But I think also we should address the rich people to sort of live up to a more acceptable standard.
Yeah, but we did that since the 70s or the 50s.
No, because they're not paying for it.
No,
they don't pay for it. We have the worst tax system since decades regarding the spread of welfare at the moment. Mm-hmm. The richer people are paying less than ever.
They're getting richer and richer.
Yeah, and America's even worse, but Netherlands also is among the countries where you can live best as a rich person.
Yeah, and in generally speaking, we should take a part of the wealth to invest in making a better world. Otherwise, the game is over for the rich people as well. So, good point. Thank you very much. Other question in the back?
For any of the transitional changes that take place, for anything that is produced, there is embedded carbon footprint, and there is something that happens at the end of life of that material as well. So with every transitional technology improvement that takes place, you are essentially incentivizing new products being developed, new products being purchased, new products being thrown off at the end of, maybe not even at the end of its life, just because there's a new something a little 2% more energy efficient in the market. Yeah. There's a new iPhone that's coming in, you throw off a perfectly good working iPhone just to get a new one. So it's just an argument that I feel like we need to really address this as well, because again, every time we think of making some transitional changes and only small changes, we end up actually inadvertently producing and
good point, and the iPhone might be a good example.
For that reason, I think we have to build more in, let's say, wooden buildings, because wood you can reduce and reduce and reuse. Also make bio-based insulation. We used to have other materials for it, so I don't think that all the innovations are bad. Sometimes they're really good. Let's say
but
if you...
What I think the consuming pattern we're in is that we want to have new stuff, more stuff. The clothing industry, Shine from China has 1.4 million new items every year in design. It's crazy. So how can we get rid of that system? How can we break that?
I think there's one big problem at the moment. Everybody knows we pay VAT, value added tax. So every value we add to a product costs money. It should be a value depreciation tax. So if a product loses value, then you should pay for it actually. And that should go together with virgin material tax. Because at the moment, with many of the reused and recycled or repurposed products, they are more expensive than new ones, and that's ridiculous. That should be dealt with, I think, politically.
Very good point. So we see a lot of possible innovations on an other level that can change the situation around.
Yeah,
that's good
again
to hear.
To the students, I mean, making stuff reusable is also a challenge. Like the gas boiler that is replaced with, well, a heat pump or district heating. Then you have a gas boiler. What to do with it? It's a lot of components. There is copper, there's everything. So that's a challenge too, and I think...
And the way you design stuff.
The way you design stuff,
replace only parts of it.
And about the dilemma we have, using stuff longer is always more sustainable.
True.
That's simple.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to replace it before the end of technical lifetime. And then it's better done in large quantities at the same time because of this reusage. If you just replace one gas boiler at a time in a street, then it's a problem. When you come in and replace everything with district heating or with heat pump, you take out all the boilers, then reusage is easier.
Yeah. Great. Final question, a glimpse into the future. Oh, another question?
On the left.
Over there? Yeah. On the Valreep.
You have to run.
On the tumble stripe.
Yes, on the tumble stripe.
Tumble stripe.
Thank you. I wanted to ask a question about when you brought up the example of Bangladesh using slum and solar panels.
Right.
I wanted to know, do you think advanced economies can use examples and inspiration from developing economies' development and their cycle habits for their energy changes or their perspectives? Or do you think that's counterintuitive?
Yeah, good point. Well, at least my example is already one part of your answer, but maybe another one.
Absolutely.
From the COP in Egypt, the prime minister of a small island just crying and saying, please world, help us because my country is disappearing. I think this is such a direct outlook on the future to the rest of the world. This is reality. You can't deny it anymore. It's another example. Go ahead.
But I think there's many, you were saying the recycling, but many poorer countries are much more energy efficient than we are. We are overusing, so both in recycling, but also how to use your energy and actually use energy savings for the good, where we often are in the problem of the GVON's paradox, where actually all the energy that we're saving, we're putting again into to make things even more energy consumptive. So I think in energy consumption, in recycling, in using materials in a much more wise way, we can learn a lot. And this kind of idea of sharing and connecting facilities is also something that we kind of in the individualistic world have lost a lot, where we can learn a lot.
Yeah, and you see that climate justice is a subject that is rising rapidly. Maybe you know Jayita Gupta, professor at the University of Amsterdam, and she talks about a ground law for all citizens on the planet. And it's such a good concept that you can actually make the whole future of the world transparent and equal rights for everybody. It's not in place yet, but you can actually use the concept to change stuff around. It's not normal that our tech waste goes to India to get rid of, or our plastic goes to Indonesia and Vietnam, or this is silly. So all kinds of system changes are necessary there, and we can learn a lot from countries far away that develop in a different way. So very good question, thank you.
I think in general scarcity always leads to more sustainable solutions. We saw that also with energy. So when the need is there, people try to find other ways. But I often show my architecture students examples from poor countries, because they know how to design comfortable buildings without the technical means, without a lot of money. And we should copy that into our Western world, actually.
On Curaçao, they put the buildings so that the wind blows into them, then you don't need an airco. Very good. It's all for free. Final last sentence, one sentence for all of you. Look into the future. Will it all work? In a way, answer has to be yes, so make a positive answer. How are we going to make it work, Marieke?
Yes, I think it will work, and I think we need both of the things that we discussed today. I think we need one kind of very strong plan, but not a detailed blueprint, but an idea of where we're going, a government that tells us this is where we need to go, and at one point this is going to be the new reality, but then gather the wisdom of everybody in order how to do that and how we can make sure that nobody's left behind. So both use this kind of directive regulation to make things happen, and at the same time ensure that everybody is included in finding how we're going to do that.
Yeah, great.
And the last, what will also work is if we shout and if we tell the truth. So please be there next Friday in Amsterdam when we have the climate march, even more necessary than ever with the new government.
Good. Anio.
I thought in 2050 I'm already retired. I'm 76 then, so then I've
in 2050.
2050.
Yeah, I'll be dead.
Yeah, you're dead, I'm not, I'm still living, I have small children. Hopefully. And then I hope that you all students make innovations, make new products, what we really need. And that you also pay attention not only to the technical part, because I work with a lot of technical people, but sometimes they forgot who they're working for. So they forgot the social aspect, and they forgot, some people don't even have the money. So think about this period that you don't have money, I think, at the moment. And when you're sitting on this seat and you have a lot of income...
Yeah, are you so well paid in your...
No, I'm still quite good paid, let's say. But then you make different choices. Let's say you go by public transport, you don't fly anymore. But you also make systems which everybody can use, and not only the rich people.
I think it's important, because everybody has a perspective now that you fly out into the future and you'll become rich and successful.
Yeah.
And I was born in the 60s and there was practically nothing there. Mm-hmm. So we can always remember, oh my God, this is such a luxury that you actually get food or stuff, because there was nothing. So that's very good.
Yeah. I've got two.
Roelof, go ahead.
The first one is people are slow to adapt, but once they do, they're getting speed really fast and they're really resourceful. So we have to really go rock bottom and then we rise, and I really believe that. So hang on, sit it out, and then we'll get there.
And is there a risk because I ran into Jan Terlouw. He's a very old Dutch writer and politician, and he said, "Oh, Harm, it's so cute what you do every day to try these little things with your students." But when you look in the history of mankind, never ever has there been major changes unless there was a disaster beforehand.
That's what I'm sort of disaster. What I meant with rock bottom. So we'll survive, most of us. And the other ones don't get annoyed with rich people that consume a lot. I mean,
how do you do that?
Yeah,
they annoy me
it's a
all
mental
the time.
switch. Forget about it. So there are a few guys or girls that
friends of mine are pretty rich.
Yeah,
they're so annoying.
Forget about it. Focus on masses. Focus on the big chunks.
Good point.
Okay.
Yeah, this is really a good lesson for me and me.
I don't know if I'm so optimistic if everything will work out. I just need to think of the civilizations that just disappeared.
All of them.
Yeah. Just think of the Romans, you know, they had a more civilized society than the medieval countries afterwards.
Absolutely, yeah.
And it took 2,000 years to get at their level again. And of course, if you look at the Mayans, if you look at
Incas, Etruscan,
everybody, the Egypts. Yeah. So there's a lot of cultures that collapsed simply because they kept on consuming. That's usually that they kept on going in the old-fashioned way.
And there's another truth beneath it. Yeah. There was always scarcity of raw materials of some kind.
Yeah.
The Romans ran out of silver to pay the troops, and they ran out of something else, and only 2 or 3 scarcities can already kill your system. So you have to be smart and you have to communicate.
Yeah. So my message actually is a positive one, because you are a young generation that knows this and that can prepare for it and can come up with solutions. And I'm trying to do my best also to teach students that and to tell the story on stages, but it's not, we can't sit backwards and just wait and saying, everything will be solved. There's always been going wrong and going right. And no, it's not automatically.
Good point. What I said to Jan Terlouw was, this is the first generation, especially you guys, who know worldwide how to communicate. You can reach each other, the technique is there. We invented internet not for nothing, so you can actually help each other get away from total disaster. This is the first time in human history. So use that as well. Find your own fellow students all over the world and just make revolution and demand your own future. Wow, give a big hand to our panel. Thank you very much. Let's have a short break and what was it?